Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is going to be a follow-up video on how the multicultural Muslim community hampers the development of Black American Muslim. This is going to be a follow-up video on this particular topic. Um, so from the first video, alhamdulillah, I got a good response from that particular video. And I want to discuss today um, related to some of the few comments I got from some of the African American Muslims who are um, have the issue what I consider to be self hate, where they say that they feel that I am in that particular video um, isolating Muslims. I don't know how I'm isolating Muslims. I'm talking about Black social issues and how African American Muslims don't do what they're supposed to be doing in the community. So in this particular video, I want to discuss about those Muslims who actually live in multicultural Muslim communities, what you should be getting from those communities. I say it again, this video is going to be for those African American Muslims who are actually in the multicultural Muslim communities. For example, Asian Muslim community, Southeast Asian Muslim community, Desi Muslim community, or we could say Arab Muslim community, African or indigenous to Africa, not the African diaspora, but who indigenous to Africa, Muslim community in the West or in America. So those Muslims who are actually in those African American Muslims who are participating in multicultural Muslim communities, what you should actually learn or take away from those communities, which a lot of African American Muslims, as I described in the first video, that a lot of the African American Muslims who are in the multicultural Muslim community, some of them, not all of them, but some of them are just hiding out in there so they don't have to go back to the Black community and fix and address the social issues in the Black community, either or by calling to Islam, having some social programs, having topics like this, right, in their community. So what should you be taking from for those African American Muslims who are in a multicultural Muslim community? What you should be getting from these communities, all right? So the first thing I want to address or talk about what you should actually be getting in these multicultural Muslim communities for the African American Muslim who are we ourselves, depending where you're from, we are in the broken communities, in the Black communities. A lot of it's broken up, no accountability, no ethno aggregation, group, which means group economics. There's no working together or coming together, no cooperation, and that's due to the lack of accountability in the Black community, right? So if we're going to talk about multicultural Muslim communities now, I have to make a disclaimer. Every multicultural Muslim community is not doing well themselves, all right? Every multicultural Muslim community, they're not, some might be, they might not see themselves as doing well for their standards, all right? Or they're not doing anything. So I want to make it distinguish. I'm talking about the multicultural Muslim community that are doing extremely well, which means they have a full functional community. They have leaders. They have people who have take up responsibilities. They have people who are intellectual. They have Muslims in their community that understand their religion. I'm talking about these type of influential Muslim communities that are doing things are positive in their community. So I'm not talking about any multicultural Muslim community, right? Or even this small multicultural Muslim community that are actually doing well. I'm gonna include them in there because I worked in these type of nationals before. So the African American Muslim who are in these type of communities, what you should be taking away from these community where you could develop yourself, your character, your knowledge, your know-how, how to do, your experience from there, and even your networks, the people that you network, the people you're meeting there. How can you take that now and go back to the Black community and use it? That's the main point of this video. So the first thing you need to do is, if you're in these communities, the first thing I will look for, or the reason why we're in these communities, because our community is messed up, or we don't have anything. or we just the only, we don't have the numbers in the black community to have a masjid, right? So we are in one of these communities. So the first thing you need to be looking for, or I will look for, or I've done, is that I would look for the Muslim community, in the multicultural Muslim community, those Muslim communities that have people who are knowledgeable about Islam. The people in those communities who are knowledgeable about Islam and learn religion from them as a Muslim. All right. So that's the first thing that you should be doing. All right. Find one of them that have knowledgeable people about Islam, meaning that they have somebody in that community who is qualified to teach Islam, not self-made, not somebody got a degree in engineering, somebody got a degree in philosophy, and they happen to be teaching Islam. Those are not qualifications to teach this. Somebody has a real qualification, graduate from Islamic university or graduate from Islamic institution of knowledge, religious knowledge, like this. So the first thing a person should do is gravitate to the person or the people in those communities that are educating Muslims, no matter what is their nationality, all right? And learn Islam from them. That's the first thing you should take away from those type of communities. The second takeaway, so the first takeaway is grasping Islamic knowledge from those who are qualified in those communities. And that itself will open up your eyes, see what's going on, see where you originally come from, what is lacking, learning about Islam. So now you know how to address the social issues that are in our communities, in the black communities, that's due to them not having the correct beliefs about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second takeaway, so look for those communities, right? Within them, they are organized by race, right? They are organized by race, meaning that you can learn from the community where you can see that every one of them are from the same race, how they collectively work together as a group of people to build their community, either based on economics, academics, things that their community is lacking, and how they fix them, and how they solve problems, and how they work together as a group. That should be the second takeaway for the African American Muslim who's in a multicultural Muslim community that's influential, right? You should be taking that away from them, all right? Look for them, you see how they're organized, because African American Muslims are not organized. We have the effects of individualism, which is pushed on black people, Eurocentric individualism, which is pushed on black people in America, where we are so much concerned only about ourselves and not about our people collectively, because we live in a capitalist society, and the capitalist society is selfish society, materialistic, selfish society. So we don't care about the next person as only if they could bring me something that is financial benefit to me, all right? Or don't care or don't concern. So you should be learning. The second takeaway from the multicultural Muslim community, you should be learning how people work collectively based on their race and religion, based on their race, language they speak, and religion, Islam. So the first one is what? Find the ones that have Islamic knowledge who have qualifications, not academics like mathematics, philosopher, doctor, like this. Doesn't make a person qualified to teach Islam. Unfortunately, in those type of communities, you have a lot of people like that. And they take a position to teach religion and they're not qualified. Look for the ones that have qualification. For example, I see online in Minnesota, these two scholars, Muslim scholars from Egypt, they give people duru's. They teach Islam. They have Islamic institution in person and online. All right. So if the person say they want to learn Islam, those are the takeaway. Those are the type of communities where you want to take things away from those communities, learn from them so you could go back and benefit your people. Two, how they work collectively now by race. Because if somebody from the same race, you will find that they think alike. They have a culture. They are related to each other. They intermarry with each other. They do business with each other, which the African American community lacks in some areas. We lack this, and we definitely lack this in the Black African American Muslim community. We lack this big time. We don't know how to work collectively. We have jealousy against each other. We have hatred against each other. And a lot of this is from inferiority complex and systemic racism. All right. So the second takeaway is learn and look how they work collectively, how they're working with each other collectively in the community. They're all Desi. You're going to see how the Desis, Southeast Asians, they work collectively because they have the numbers. They build communities, they build masjids, they build clinics, they build institutions. I live in a Desi Muslim community. I see every day. I want to go to a doctor. I don't have to go far to look for a Muslim doctor. I want to look for a therapist, any type of therapist. I could go look in the Muslim community. I want to look for certain type of specialists in the medical field. Here I can find it in the Muslim community. They have it all. They have it all. I want to look for schooling, education. They have that also. I want to go learn about Islam or memorize Quran. They have that also. And they work with their people. And they work with their people. They build these things in the community for the people. So that should be the takeaway for the African American Muslims in the multicultural community. And then you're learning how they work collectively, how they work together as a race, even though they're Muslim, even though they all speak the same language, they're still Muslim. And you're going to find how they work together, how they do business together, how they employ each other, how they go buy, shop, and sell, buy and sell with each other because they have the same culture, speak the same language. That means they want the same type of goods. Did you see how they do business together? I remember in the same area was a bar here, and this bar been there since the early 80s, right? So I remember a group of Bangladeshi Muslims bought the bar. I remember talking to African American brothers, like criticizing them. He said, "Why did I go buy this bar for?" And I watched the Bangladeshi who were Muslim. They went and purchased the bar. After they purchased the bar, they bought the property. What they do? The bar was up for about a month or two. Then one day I go and look. Oh, they're doing construction inside the bar. Oh, it's no longer a bar. They made it into a halal business. They made it into a halal business. And they put their monies together and bought the property. 2 or 3 or 4 of them put their monies together and bought property. Even now, I go here where I live, all the Desis, they even own buildings, apartment buildings. So they're working together. So what the African American Muslim who is using the multicultural Muslim community to hide inside their community while they don't want to go and build from their community, well, these are positive things that you could take away from the multicultural Muslim community, but majority of you are not learning and don't even see these things. Matter of fact, some of us, the African American Muslims, well, you might be in one of those multicultural communities, not by choice because it's the only Muslim community, and you might be criticizing these people. So, oh, they only think about themselves. They only think about their race. They're not thinking about anybody else. Why this? And you're not learning how people on this earth, no matter what race they are, and you go to their country, any country, how people live on earth and work together as a race of people. Anywhere you go on the earth, Muslim or non-Muslim, how people collectively work together. But the African American Muslim, just like his counterpart, the African American, who has been socially engineered and programmed through systemic racism and this Eurocentric educational system, you can't see that when you're in the multicultural community. You can't even see that. And then because you cannot see that, because there's an issue related to your psyche, you can't even take these lessons I just mentioned, learn from these things, learn from them these things, then take it and go work with your people where you come from to call them to Islam and to solve our social issues using Islam. And this is for the comments that those who left on that video that I did on how the multicultural Muslim community hampers the development of African American Muslims. For those who left some criticism on that video in the comment section, well, now I'm going to show you guys how you're in these communities and you're not even learning these positive things that are Islamic and using it to implement it back in your African American Muslim community, where you should be calling those people who are black just like you to Allah, calling them to Allah. Because psychologically you have inferiority complex, and you use Islam and you use those communities to hide there with this particular mind setting, which is an illness. It is an illness. It is an illness. These are the positive takeaways that you should be learning in the multicultural Muslim community. But some of us in the black community, intellectually and psychologically, can't see it because of the inferiority complex and using religion as a means to escape from dealing with our issues collectively as a race of people. It's like we're not down for the work. We're not down for the hard work. You know, you read about the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam fi siratihi, the battle of the trenches. And you can find in the battle of the trenches that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was in the trench digging with the people, working with the people, getting his hands dirty with the people for their people survival of the deen of Islam. And we're not even willing to go to work in our own communities. They're going to say, oh, they kuffar. While the Messenger of Allah was digging the ditch in the battle of the trenches, he was fighting his own qawm. He was fighting his own people. He was struggling with his own people. He was calling his own people first to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So while you in these multicultural Muslim communities hearing these type of topics like the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the ghazwa of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, kayfa Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam yadu ila Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how the Prophet was giving dawah for the sake of Allah, calling his people to Allah, mixing with his people and his struggles, you can even see this is what you're supposed to be implementing where you live with your people. And then it will show for those individuals who will comment on that particular video that I made that you're not even doing your basic duties as a Muslim. The basic duties as a Muslim is calling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The basic essence of dawah, we're not even calling our own people, our own mothers, the people in our household to Islam. Who were the first people the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam called to Allah, called to Islam? His wife, his household, then his close companions, then those around him from Mecca. We're not even implementing that in our own family, in our own neighborhood, with our own neighbors, even with our own companions who are not Muslim. We're not even implementing these things from the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ related to calling people to Allah. You want to follow the sunnah of the Prophet, the sunnah of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? كيف هو بلغ هذه رسالة? How did he give dawah? How did he reach the people with this message? Well, it first started with who? His household, his family, and those around him. That's for those who left those comments on my post about that video. How the multicultural Muslim community hamper the African American Muslim. And that's why I did that video. Because you're in these communities and you're not even taking away these type of positive Islamic messages and methodology that many of them are practicing because you're self-hate. Self-hate. Self-hate, which is related to the psyche and how you see the world, the way you think in this negative way, and the way you think, now you can see that this illness, negative way of seeing things, how it affects how you see Islam, even when it comes to you in the right form, that you don't even know how to digest it psychologically, to implement it on your own self and your family and your people, because you didn't deal with the self-hate. You didn't deal with the self-hate. When a person has self-hate, how he looks at anything, religion, politics, daily life, other people, other black people, how it distort the reality. Even when you look at Islam, with this issue that you have of self-hate, even you, the way you see Islam, it distorts the true message. It preventing you from seeing the true message of Islam and how to implement it with your own people. Self-hate is very destructive. Very destructive. But I said a lot. Many of you cannot digest this. Allah God who He wills. But even in the multicultural Muslim community, you guys are not even taking these positive things. You know, I worked in multicultural communities before. I know how it works. I see how it works. I see how people by their race and their culture as Muslim, how they do things. how to get things done in their communities. Even when the masjid has a mixture of nationality. I've been an imam of a masjid like this before. I see how people come and pull their money together to do things for the sake of Allah. So for those Muslims who left those comments on that particular video, what are you doing? What are you taking away from those communities? That's positive. And how are you using those things to call your community, your people who look like you, to Allah?